Good morning, startup world. How is everyone? It is so great to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us on January 3rd. I love that you're kicking off the year strong, getting after those startup goals. So before we kick things off, I did want to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie. I am the founder of Startup Boston. Really, our goal on this end is to connect, educate, and celebrate the startup community throughout Boston and the New England area. So really, thank you so much for joining us and the city of Boston for this event. Um, if you could do me a quick favor and actually just in the chat that a lot of you are already chiming in on, I love like the greetings, like good morning. I do have my cup of coffee. I hope you have yours. But if you could also just throw in where you're dialing in from, we're really curious since this is all about how to start a Boston-based startup. If you currently live in Boston, if you live elsewhere and are thinking about moving here, would love just to know where you are based. And that just kind of helps, our panelists know a little bit more of who they're talking to. So thank you so much for diving in and doing that. To kick things off, I am really excited to hand this very much imaginary mic over to Shagan. He is from the city of Boston, and he's going to share the more about the awesome work that they are doing to support the startup community here. So, Shagan, the stage is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie, and good morning to all of you. I want you all to know that everyone here was ready to start at 9 o'clock, and I am the reason why I started late, but I'm going to tell you why. So you'll see behind me here is, well, you can't tell, but I'm here at the Central Boston Public Library, which, as someone that grew up in Boston, was an immense resource for me for understanding the world around me. And one of the cool things here at the library is that they have a resource center right on the floor below where I'm sitting now that offers resources and support for all of our entrepreneurs here in the city of Boston. And I thought, what better place to kick things off and to share more about the work that we're doing in the Office of Mayor Wu to support our startup community. So as Stephanie mentioned, my name is Shagun Idowu. I have the privilege of serving as the Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion for the city of Boston. We're a big cabinet that covers a lot of ground, but the most important work that we're doing is supporting people like you. And I want to give a quick shout out to a young person on our team who helped to co-organize this event and made sure that I was here and has already given me a strong talking to about being here a couple minutes late. But Shanice Wallace, who's one of our industry managers working in the Office of Business Strategy. This is the group that worked really hard with our state colleagues to get organizations like Lego to move their headquarters here to Boston. And there's so much that we want to do to support you to be the next Lego, to be one of the best, not just here in the city of Boston or the Commonwealth, but throughout our country and our world. Finally, I'll just say what we know in the Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion is that there is no opportunity, no true economic development if we are not including everyone here in the city of Boston. And so the work that we're doing is to make sure that folks who may have always had access and folks who have not always had access are all invited to take part and draw upon the resources and materials and information that we have at our fingertips. And I'll say that the city, through Mayor Wu, is stepping up to ensure that even the title of this gathering, not only how to start your business, but how to scale it, that we are focused on and leaning in on helping to scale our startups across the city. We just launched a program called Scale, a $9 million program to help scale startups across the city. And so we're looking forward to working in partnership with all of the folks on this panel and all of you joining us today to ensure that we have a more robust economy here in the city. So with that, Stephanie, I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Shari, and the panelists for having this conversation, and know that here in the city, we're here to work with you, not only during this conversation, but every day hereafter. So thank you very much.
I really appreciate it, Shagan, and thank you so much to you, Shanice, and City of Boston for partnering up with us for this event and also the next 5 events. We are hosting an event every single month together. So it's going to be the first Wednesday of every month. Details about our next one will be shared at the end of this event. But without further ado, I am very ecstatic to hand this mic over to Sherry. So Sherry, please dive into how you can start and scale a Boston-based startup. I'll leave the floor to you.
Thank you, Steph. You have so much energy. I don't know if I can meet that. All right. So many thanks to Gunn and the City of Boston for sponsoring this much needed panel discussion. The local entrepreneurship ecosystem is growing in leaps and bounds. I recently started at Suffolk University 3 years ago now, and I can't believe how much has been added to the scene. A lot of momentum, a lot more resources, but it can be hard to know where to turn. And I get questions every hour from entrepreneurs. What do I do? Where do I go? So I'm Sherry Worthington. I'm your moderator today. I'm a professor and associate director of the Center for Entrepreneurship at Suffolk University. And I see some Suffolk grads in the chat. Yay. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. That means I've got some successes under my belt and some failures. It's the way it goes. My first startup, Talesian Technology, has been around a long time, and I'm happy to report is still going strong. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm here to help entrepreneurs near and far, wherever you may be. And in fact, I think I saw South Africa, and yeah, I see more Suffolk grads there. So what I want to do is let's start with our impressive panel of speakers. Daniel, let's start with you. Tell us who you are, what you do, and why you care.
First of all, thank you so much, Shari, and the rest of the team at Startup Boston. Also great to see Shagun's a good friend in the work that they're doing at the mayor's office. And so I'm Daniel Acheampong. I'm one of the co-founders and general partners at Visible Hands. We're a venture capital firm focused on identifying incredibly talented, diverse founders who are building venture-backable technology businesses. And I care because I love Boston. I was born in Ghana. I grew up in Brooklyn, but I came to Boston in my early years and spent my time in school there, worked there, lived in Boston. So it's become an incredible home for me. And the ecosystem, the friendships, the networks has been a place that I've just so much enjoyed and grown a lot from. So I'm excited to have this conversation with the rest of the panel, and also great to see so many folks in the chat. So yes, all right, Gun, I see you, Amma. So really excited to have this conversation.
Excellent. Thank you, Daniel. Oh, somebody's talking. Ignacio, you're up.
Thank you so much, Shari, and the team here for having me. And so, good morning to everyone from Costa Rica, which is my home country. I believe me, I usually spend most of my time in Boston. So, I actually moved to Boston about 10 years ago, and I love the city, and I love all the resources and the startup ecosystem that we have, and we are very lucky to have it. So. My background, I am the managing partner of 120 IBC, which is an emerging venture capital firm. We're focusing on supporting AI B2B startups in pursuit stage, and I'm also part of a global organization called Founder Institute, which I spent many years supporting early stage entrepreneurs. And right now working on a few initiatives around AI with Founder Institute on a global basis. So really happy to be here and looking forward to have it. Thank you, Chair.
Awesome. Thank you, Ignacio. Kat, tell us about yourself.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me. My name is Kat Lawler. So happy to be on this panel today. I'm the executive director of E4All Roxbury. Our mission is to accelerate social and economic impact through inclusive entrepreneurship. And we do this in a couple different ways. We offer a free business accelerator program for underserved entrepreneurs in the idea stage of business. We connect entrepreneurs with mentors and overall just seed capital and resources. And I'm an entrepreneur myself, and I'm actually an E4All alumni. So super, super passionate about the work that we do and the Boston entrepreneurial ecosystem.
Very good. Thank you, Kat. Parker.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherry. Hi, everyone. I'm Parker McKee. I'm an investor on the team at Pillar VC here in Boston. I focus on the software and hardware side, so all tech investments. We also have a biotech team. We manage about $400 million. The firm's co-founded by a great group of Boston execs, the founders of DraftKings and TripAdvisor and Wayfair and Rapid7. And our real goal is to make sure that there's, a beacon here in Boston that's trying to help make sure that the non-obvious ideas coming out of universities, coming out of research labs, coming from people inside of existing Boston area companies, do have the opportunity to make it out into the world. And we really believe it's the hard things that are going to make an impact, and that's what we're here to help fund and build. And then why do I do it? Because number one, I grew up in Boston. I live in Boston. I think the first question here is, why does Boston get a bad rap in the innovation ecosystem? And I think we're here to prove that it shouldn't. And there's a reason why it produces 2 unicorns every year and has for the last 20 years. So our goal is to keep that going.
Oh, that's good data, Parker. 2 unicorns a year. I like that.
Big. Some years 3, some years 1.
I like it. All right. Thank you all. So here's how the rest of the session will work. We're going to ask our panelists some of the questions that we received from you all prior to today. And then as they're talking, feel free to drop new questions into the chat. You're already chatting there. This is great. Tell us where you're from, but also tell us your questions. And we'll sort through those and we will answer those as we go. We'll take a couple of breaks along the way and we'll look specifically at what's coming in live. But we're going to start with some of these really good questions that came in ahead of time. So our first question is about local resources. Ignacio, let's start with you. What are the most effective ways for Boston visionaries with new ideas to find development partners for design, software development, or production? Can you talk us through some of that?
Sure, Cherry, and I'm going to start the panel with kind of maybe a very different way to answer this question, which is what not to do. And my vintage point here is more from technology, from kind of focusing when you need to build technology and need to find developers. And my perspective here is there's 2 different ways to look at this, from a non-technical or a technical perspective. From a non-technical, I think what you need to avoid is go right away to try to find a firm that is going to build your product that might have negative consequences down the road. But it's very easy to feel like you are having progress by hiring someone that is building a product for you and not necessarily. And if you're not really connected with the customers, it might not be even the product that you need for your company, right? So, and I think the better way to do that is really focusing, and I know we have a topic on this later, but really focusing on finding your co-founder. If you're a non-technical founder, find a technical founder, or vice versa. And it could be not necessarily a co-founder, it could be an advisor. I think it's another way to look at this is, and many times undervalued, is find people that can advise you and that can help you kind of make introductions and have referrals for you that can help you build that founding team, which is key for whatever you need to do, right? So, and same applies when if you're a technical person. I mean, that's even more tricky, because if you're a technical person, it's easier to go and build, and that's typically what we see. So technical founder just building a product, not necessarily with others, and again, you have to just avoid that and make sure that you find those non-technical founders and start building your team, your company. So that's my take, Shari. Hope that give us some insights here.
Thank you, Ignacio. Absolutely. You have to do things kind of in the right order. There's not a formula for entrepreneurship, but there are first things first. Anyone else want to jump on that question?
Well, I will jump in here, and I think even just beyond Boston, but just some of the fundamental frameworks of building, and I completely ignore. I mean, I agree with Ignacio, is that the starting from some of the first principles of building, right? That I think sometimes people are quick to immediately to jump and build, but there are even things that you have to do to really prove that, is there truly a customer base out there? Have you gone through the customer validation process to show that there's the willingness to try to move to even before there's a willingness to pay? Sometimes when I speak with founders, some of the things that I hear when I really want to get a sense of the customer is that they'll say, I've done, I did a survey and 100 people responded and they said they want this thing. And then I asked, well, how do you know that that's truly a customer that you want? And they'll say, oh, I sent it to my friends. And then they send it to their friends. Well, that's may not necessarily be your customer, right? So there's an important process to go through to truly validate that this is a group of people that I want to build for. And to Ignacio's point, before you go and spend all of the money and resources on a development team, you just want to go at least make sure you take a step back and figure out, have I validated this process? Have I validated the customer? Is this the right direction that I'm heading into before I put so much resources into the to the build out?
Thank you, Daniel. All good advice. Let me jump on to another question. And I love this one. I've spent time in a lot of different areas in the US, but let's talk about Boston and Silicon Valley. People generally think Silicon Valley is the place for startups, especially in tech. What kind of startup community has Boston built over the years? And Parker, I think I'm going to start with you on this one.
Awesome. I mean, I'll just build on what I started with in the intro. Like, I think the right way to think about this is not that SF has a problem. SF's super productive, right? But there's a lot of places in the world that are super productive, and Boston is damn near number 2 to SF in producing tech companies, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I think you look at SF and you can kind of look backwards and say, why was that the case? Well, SF really nailed social and mobile, and so you had companies like Meta, like Uber, that built huge masses of talent, and then that talent propagates around the ecosystem. And that's resulted in lots of angel investment dollars, lots of people that want to go start new companies, lots of people that saw a growth story, they saw success, they saw how it's done, and then they want to go do it on their own. And then most importantly, you had a culture. You had a culture of people that wanted to go build, they wanted to build fast, they wanted to build scrappy. And so SF, I would say, won the social mobile war, and that culture continues to propagate. But that's okay, because Boston's won a bunch of other wars. We have an incredible biotech ecosystem here. We have an incredible hardware ecosystem here. We've got 2 of the best universities. We have 8 of the best universities in the world right here in our backyard. And as a result, there's a continuous flywheel of talent that just keeps growing and growing and growing and pushing out new innovations. And as a result of that, you see startup success. And so is it number 1 in producing, market value in the software space? No, I believe it's number 2. But as I said, that's okay. And we're just going to keep churning out wins and, building a robust ecosystem behind it. And so I don't think it has to be this binary number 1 or bust. I think being number 2 behind SF is A-okay, and all the resources exist to build a monster company here in town.
That was a good cheering kind of a response. Thank you. Ignacio, you got any comments on that?
Yeah, Sherry, and I think I can bring a little bit of a different perspective, and I want to share a little bit of a story here, which is I work for as I mentioned, for Founder Institute with Founder Institute, and I actually started launching Accelerator here in Costa Rica for a few years, and our slogan is actually of Founder Institute is globalizing Silicon Valley, right? And that went very well here, because that was kind of what the people here wanted to hear. And then they asked me to help with Boston. So then I went and tried to replicate what I did in Costa Rica, and actually didn't go as well, because when I was just sharing about globalizing Silicon Valley, Boston was not. They didn't receive very well that slogan here, because yeah, we are not definitely Silicon Valley, and we definitely not necessarily need to be a Silicon Valley, right? So I would like to say that Boston is, I mean, and I mentioned at the beginning, we are really lucky to be in Boston and have all the resources that we have in Boston and be able to build with leveraging all those resources. It's a very strong ecosystem when you compare it with others. There's a lot of pride that we have in what we built in Boston. It's very supportive. And actually, I like to say that we have a very healthy level of skepticism and conservatism as well, and that I mean has its purpose, and but it's a really a community that like to pay forward, pay back, sorry, and pay forward, and have that mentality that Techstars has been promoted like Give First. So it's a really great place to build a company. And the last thing I would say is one thing that I think, and because we can also learn about kind of how can we make our ecosystem better, and And one example that I always like to go back is when you have a company that is building kind of a really hard tech or trying to solve a hard tech problem in Boston, you usually see that kind of going that route of, oh, I have to go to the FDA, so kind of to do it the right way. While in Silicon Valley, sometimes they just try to bypass all of that and go more on the consumer way, right? So, and I think we can get more creative in terms of how do we kind of kick off these ventures, these companies, and try to be kind of take some of that mentality, and even so that would make our ecosystem even better, right? So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, and I totally agree. It's interesting. I think we have a more balanced mindset here in Boston versus the insanity and the burnout that I see in Silicon Valley, which is not healthy and really not good for a long-term sustainable organization. So thank you guys. Let's move on to another question. What kind of resources does Boston not have that it should have to best serve our startup community? And Daniel or Kat, you want to jump on that?
Kat, you want to go? I'll go after you.
You can go.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think to the things that Parker has and Ignacio have mentioned, that I mean, Boston is just phenomenal for the as an important place, has all the great infrastructure to build, to scale, and incredible just ethos that we have for building. I think some of the things that for me that comes to mind about resources. I wouldn't necessarily even consider it as resources as lacking, but some of the challenges is that it's a high cost of living in Boston. But I don't think that's necessarily unique to Boston. I mean, New York and SF are also pretty expensive. And when people think about Boston, they think about it as industries, as a place that's mainly focused in industries such as biotech, health tech, and education. So, some of the other sectors may not have necessarily received as the same depth of investment or opportunities such as manufacturing or consumer goods, but we're actually seeing progress in those areas. We have companies such as Whoop. Shagun mentioned Legos moving their headquarters here, so the infrastructure to promote some of these businesses are really strong here. And then the other thing that also comes to mind, and I think this is something that Boston faces as a criticism, is sometimes the issues of social diversity and inclusivity. And I think that over the years, we've actually have been seeing more work and more attention within that space. And I think, the mayor's office, the governor's office are doing a really fantastic job in ensuring that we're elevating leadership. We're bringing more programs and resources to acknowledge inclusivity and the great work that's happening in Boston. So those are some of the key things that come to mind. And then the last thing that I'll add here, and I'll pass it to you, Kat, is that I think this is actually a great benefit to Boston. But how I think about it is that how do we keep this benefit, right? Boston is a hub of educating some of the best minds in the world. But then, and Shari, I'm sure you see this with students leaving and going to other parts of the country. So if we're cultivating great minds here, then how do we keep the great minds and the talent in Boston? So I think that's something that is a great resource in Boston, and not necessarily allowing that to just leave when they come through here.
A very good point, Daniel. Kat.
Honestly, he just pretty much summed it up.
Do you guys have any comments related to women-specific resources? I know that's a question I hear a lot.
Yeah, I can jump in on that. I wrote down so many resources because me personally and at E4All, we really focus on inclusive entrepreneurship. So we focus on women, people of color, immigrants. For women, I mean, obviously, E for all. The Center for Women in Enterprise is a great resource for women. Scroobius, I want to give a huge shout out to Scroobius. They're a pitch education and investor platform, and they focus on underserved founders, women, and it's a great platform and a community to join. And also for women, the E-Forum. So I was previously the executive director of the Capital Network, and one of our flagship programs was the Fellowship for Female Founders. And now that the E-Forum now has adopted that. So if you are a female founder and you're looking to raise your first round, it's a great community. You are a part of a cohort. You get to learn about due diligence, how to pitch to investors. They connect you with investors that focus on investing in women. So those are just a few resources for women.
Thank you. And to expand that to all minorities, right? Do we have specific areas for people to go? I know at Suffolk, we've got a number of clubs that are forming around entrepreneurship and different areas of the world, and they're finding like-mindedness and able to share stories and help each other. Are we seeing that within the city as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, Shari. I mean, to plug Visible Hands, that's an important area for us to identify and support great founders who are building the venture scalable technology businesses. So it is an important thing for us. And in fact, majority of our portfolio are mostly women-led companies. So, and then some of the resources that, as Kat was talking about, also came to mind is that we have Boston Impact Initiative. They're doing great work with Betty Francisco, Hack Diversity, Startup Boston with Stephanie and the rest of the team of just kind of really bringing people together. So those are some of the additional things that also came to mind. And also actually
Yes.
Becca, with Nicole and the work that Becca is doing as well. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, 100%. Boston Impact Initiative, they invest in social enterprises owned by people of color. And they're an amazing resource in Boston right now. And I was also going to say BECMA, the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, is an amazing community and resource for founders of color.
Excellent. Is somebody making a list of all these so we have them? Steph, we need a list. Let me jump over to fundraising because Kat, you brought that up. So can you expand a little bit on what does the funding path in Boston look like for social entrepreneurs or not-for-profits?
Well, for not-for-profits, which is obviously my expertise, right now there are a lot of government grants that you can apply for, foundation grants, individual donors, corporate sponsors. And for social entrepreneurs, one of my resources that I wrote down was the Boston Impact Initiative.
For grants, where do you start? That can be a complicated picture.
Yeah, so you can go to like City of Boston or like your local city. A lot of them have the grants on their website. There's also the SBA. The SBA launches some amazing grants. They just did a awesome grant for organizations focused on women and people of color. The SBA is where a lot of the larger grants come out of.
Great, thank you. So let me do a bigger picture one here. Ignacio, let me jump over to you. What do you think the fundraising landscape will look like here in Boston in 2024?
Sure, Shari. And so 2023 has been very, very, very tough. And everyone has been kind of in front of investors and knows it already. And I think 2024 is going to continue to be tough. We are starting to see a little bit of a kind of the light at the end of the tunnel, with the stock market getting better, kind of inflation getting under control and things like that. But I think it's at least for, I don't know, I mean, this might not hold true, but at least for the next 12 months, I think it's going to continue to be tough. And so, and again, I'm because of 120 ABC, I've been in front of a lot of investors, and I can share this from my personal experience. And as especially early stage companies, you guys have to be prepared to face much more scrutiny and be able to address tough questions, right? Around kind of your background, why are you the best person to build this company? Your team, your business model, your market, etc. So is, but at the end of the day, I think if you focus on a big problem and try to figure out a solution for that big problem, that's the biggest and the most important thing to do. So um, fundraising is gonna get better, and then the other thing, the other very important thing is how do you kind of keep your burn rate low and be able to kind of last longer, because it's gonna probably take much longer than before to actually close a round.
I'm happy to chime in and build on that.
I was just going to ask you, Parker. Yeah.
I would just say, I think the point of emphasis is, yes, it's hard. And at the same time, the capital market window is open. Like, I think there's, if you just read the media headlines, you'd think that no companies are getting funded. And the reality is there's lots of firms here in town that have funds that they're looking to deploy. And so companies are getting funded every week. I know Abigail Reese here in town puts out a newsletter called, it's on Substack. It's a weekly funding roundup. That's great. I recommend you guys subscribe. And every week I open it, I'm blown away by the number of companies that are getting started and funded. And so, there is activity, there is money out there. Like, don't leave this chat thinking, oh my gosh, there's no money in town. The great companies are getting funded, they're getting built. People are raising plenty of capital across all stages, specifically at inception. There's a lot of early stage funds. I think it's hard if you had growth plans, you missed those growth plans. That's probably the hardest part of the capital market right now, trying to raise a bridge round. But people are actively deploying into seed.
Parker, keep going. Give us some tips on how our founders should approach, raising money in 2024.
Yeah. First off, I would try to simplify. I think the most common mistake we see is people feel like in the first 30 minutes, you need to get every bit of detail about the business out. And the reality is you really just want to get the person excited on the edge of their seat. So in 10 minutes, what are the really, really key takeaways that you want to leave someone with? And then they'll dig deeper and deeper and deeper. The second is that people get really obsessed with the story and forget that, it's a business and the finances and the numbers really matter. And so, don't show up to a pitch without that level of detail. You want to own your entire financial model and know the significance of every single piece of it. And then I think the last is, be really, really targeted in your outreach. There's nothing more deflating than going and picking up 15 no's. And you might just be getting no's because you're pitching the wrong people. Like if you go pitch, if you're a seed stage company and you go pitch like Bain Capital or Summit, they're going to say no because they just don't invest in seed. They have lots of money, but they go buy companies. And so make sure go on Crunchbase, go on PitchBook, look at the prior companies that those people specifically have funded and make sure they look at this. They seem like the same stage as yours. They're in the same industry. They have similar business models. You can just save yourself a lot of time, and you need to protect your emotions, or you can quickly get run down and think the idea is not a good idea. But I'm sure others have interesting things to build on that.
Daniel, you got any tips to add?
Yeah, I think all fantastic advice from Parker and Ignacio there. And what I will add is that in a market like this, there's a strong emphasis on the market. I think rewards efficiency and progress. And it's not that you need to be hitting everything out of the park, but for some of the things that I'm looking at is this founder continuously making progress in what they say they're going to do, right? Are they making progress to get closer and closer to the customer's willingness to pay that I mentioned earlier? So the really, really optimizing on progress and efficiency becomes very important. And to some of the things that's mentioned earlier is also just getting that storytelling and refining all those things in a really top shape. you control the narrative, right? So make sure that you're prepared and you're confident in what you're presenting. And then lastly is that, I expect the founder to know more about what they're building than I do. And that's a level of preparation that, we want to see. So, control your narrative, continue to show progress, and it doesn't have to be perfect, just that progress and efficiency becomes very helpful.
So related to storytelling, I want to do a little bit of switch over to some of the live questions. We're getting a lot of questions about marketing strategy. So maybe can we talk a little bit about free or low-cost resources in the Boston area that can help people with marketing and PR strategies? Any suggestions there?
One resource that comes to mind is Score. Score is free, and basically you apply on their website, and they'll connect you with a free mentor that you can meet with in any specific area of business that you need.
That's a very good suggestion. Go ahead, Parker.
This is in Boston specific, but I would encourage everyone to go down the rabbit hole on all the new AI tools available around marketing and ad generation and optimization and sales. We've seen more and more companies in the portfolio that are, show up to the board meeting and they're like, hey, we didn't think this would work, but we tried this AI outreach tool and like pretty low cost and the conversion's quite high. And so I don't think that's your whole strategy, but try some AI generated ads. Try an autonomous optimization engine, try an AI auto dialer, go give all the tools a shot. And I think you may be surprised and they're all quite cheap. It's like, $9 a month, $20 a month. You may get a lot of lift compared to going and hiring a $40,000 agency. And so experiment with what's out there. I think you might be pretty amazed.
One of my former students is working on AI generated scripts for telemarketing. And he said they are working phenomenally for that first cold calling stage, which is always very painful. So there is some interesting stuff there. I've worked with a lot with AI within marketing content. Not real happy with a lot of it because it's still learning. So it's very basic. But, start with that as a base platform and then tweak it so that it really gets your message well. We're also getting a lot of questions. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Something very quickly, which is, and I in a similar kind of fashion of some of my previous panelists, our focus is on pre-seed, right? So when you're a pre-seed company, you might not need to do a lot of marketing, right? So be careful with kind of going and spending a lot of money with, or even time. I mean, the most precious resource as a founder that you have is your time. So even if you have free marketing tools and all of these things that you can do, be careful because, I mean, early stage, you just need to find really good customers, solve their problems, and they are going to do a lot of work for you in terms of word of mouth and sharing what you're doing and be a referral for you. And that's all you need at the beginning, right? So don't, and again, if you cannot find those customers kind of close to you and within your network, then you might not be working as hard as you should with your closed network so that you can find those customers instead of going with marketing, which you will need, but maybe later on in your journey.
Very good point. Very good point. Let's see some of the other questions we're getting. Let's see. A lot of questions about resources for the clean tech space. Anybody have some expertise in that area? And related to that, what industries or sectors in Boston will show the most growth in 24?
I think the intersection of tech and biology, specifically computation and biology, is going to continue to explode. Boston's uniquely positioned there. There's so much activity around AI right now. So I see that as a growth area. I think robotics is going to continue to grow and grow. There's a lot of large ecosystem talent in town. You've got Boston Dynamics, you have Amazon Robotics, you have companies like Right Hand Robotics and Pickle Robot and Verve Motion. And I think a lot of those companies are reaching the point where you'll have early VPs and directors that start, spinning out and starting new companies in town. And a lot of the work going on in AI right now is making the programming of robots in stochastic environments easier and easier. So those are two I'll flag, but I'm sure others have sectors as well.
Yeah.
And how many of those? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Daniel.
Go ahead, Sherry. I'll go after you.
I was just going to say, how many of those robotic endeavors end up being bought by Amazon? Quite a few out here in Worcester. Go ahead, Daniel.
I was going to say, the space that I'm also excited about and paying close attention to is healthcare. And as I know there's been some chats here and about AI, and is that I really do think that there's seems just some interesting innovations within the space, particularly for healthcare. And Boston has a really, really strong infrastructure and ecosystem for healthcare. I also really find just generally fintech also pretty interesting. And just seeing how they're interesting, interesting ways that we're seeing, even on the blockchain side, the tech that's coming out. And for me, some areas within fintech that I also find interesting is generally how do we optimize unbanked or the underbanked, and how can we use creative tools to support that? So in Boston, those are two areas that I find really interesting, and also seeing some interesting companies coming out of those spaces.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are hot areas. I was just thinking the EMBA course, executive MBA course that I'm teaching right now in entrepreneurship, the projects happen to all be focused on medical. There's a huge need. People are seeing the problems. Parents, not being able to get primary care physicians for their kids. Access is a big issue, and they're coming up with some pretty interesting ideas. In fact, I think we're going to have some actual startups evolve out of these EMBA teams, which is pretty exciting. Let's see. So we're getting a lot of questions about networking. So where to find events? Where's the best place to mingle? Where can people get started?
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things that I'll encourage people to check out is I think it's InnoCrew, that's led by Kylie, and it's phenomenal. They have, I believe, monthly events that brings people together, and a lot of also the like the WeWorks of the world, or some of the co-working groups in Boston does a very good job in creating just open platforms to meet other entrepreneurs, other investors. So there's always something happening. InnoCrew was one of the first things that came to my mind, and I think Kylie and her team is doing incredible work in bringing people together.
Yeah, I'll build on that. I mean, I think there's around each university, there's often a bunch of public events around specific topics. Like, for example, the Martin Trust Center at MIT hosts something called Pitch to Match, where a couple times a semester they'll let anyone, I mean, it's many students, but anyone can show up, walk up on stage in front of 100+ people and share your elevator pitch for an idea. And then they put their contact info up there. And so if you want to join something, if you want to go pitch your own idea and have people join you, that's a great resource. Just looking at the Eventbrite open page, sometimes if I'm bored and I want to go, meet a bunch of people, I'll just go on Eventbrite and type in startup, pitch event, showcase. There's some keywords that often kick off good output, and they're almost all free, and those are hosted around town. There's Venture Cafe at CIC. A lot of venture firms host events. Like certainly follow us at Pillar. We host a lot of events. I know Founder Collective here in town hosts events. Underscore hosts a lot of events. I'm sure I'm missing others, but there's a lot of events happening in town if you put your ear to the ground on it.
Yeah, I can add. Sorry.
Go ahead, Kat.
Very quick. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, and then we'll come back, Ignacio.
Yeah, just one thing that comes to my mind. Networking is so important for entrepreneurs. I think, like, even if you don't join a accelerator programs host free networking events all year long, like such as E4All, the Innovation Studio, Mass Challenge, Techstars. Like if you don't join an accelerator, like, just join the community, because like they have a lot of amazing events where you can meet other entrepreneurs, investors, partners, etc.
Ignacio, go ahead.
Yeah, so I will give a shout. I mean, I think you are already in one of the best places in Boston, which is Startup Boston, and this community. And Stephanie does a magnificent job as at kind of curating and looking at everything that's happening in Boston and the HRN. If you're not actually, Stephanie's been doing some videos kind of with all the things that are happening in Boston that are great. And so yeah, look at that, and you're gonna see a lot of great events popping up and that you can participate in. And the other thing that I would say is Boston is one of those most active cities in the space. So just be mindful and intentional about kind of what you are trying to accomplish with your networking, and have a goal, right? Don't go to events just for the sake of going. Go with a goal, and after you go to the event, go back and say, yeah, this was a good event? Is this was worth my time? Is this something that I want to continue doing?
Yeah, and I just want to add a little plug. Universities really have so much going on. Suffolk has a Startups in Residence event where founders come in and talk to hundreds of students. We've got an event coming up that'll have at least 500 students, potential employees, but we also invite in outsiders. Maybe you're looking to join a startup. These kind of events are a great place to network. We've also got blockchain careers events coming up. So look at all the universities. We've all got this kind of stuff going on all the time, and usually anyone can walk in. Let's see, we're running out of time. Let me do another one on, so here's a question from the audience. Outside of using your natural network, how do you advise portfolio companies to build their teams? When should startups turn to recruiters? How do you balance that?
I'm happy to chime in first. Context matters here, right? You know, if you're if you don't have a lot of money, then using recruiters is probably not the right answer. If you're, you know, have lots and lots of money and you're well funded, then it's a time trade-off, and so recruiting can make sense. I would say our portfolio has the most success on LinkedIn. You know, being very, very targeted in what are building a list of the companies that have developed skills that are relevant to what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to build a company or build a business in the video streaming space, what other companies out there have really strong video streaming engineering teams? So like Peloton and Hopin and Zoom, for example, like, you know, make that list and then go super targeted on LinkedIn. You might want to upgrade to the, you know, Sales Navigator or Premium Recruiter, different packages, and who are all the people that worked in those core teams inside those companies. And then if you get to one of those people and they say, I'm not interested, ask them, who are the 3 best people inside that org? So I would start with the list of companies that have your type of talent, and then just try to network as hard as you can with those people. But LinkedIn is my answer.
Yeah, and you know, we were talking about going to a lot of these events, and to Ignacio's point, just being very targeted, right? So if you want to leverage and going to these networking events as a recruiting opportunity, really do that. And when you meet these people, asking them if they are available, but also if they're not, to Parker's point, like asking who are the smartest people or the best people within this specific category that you think I should talk to, and keep that going and keep that going. And at some point you will find someone or some people that you should be interviewing or should be considering. But leveraging the networking tools here will also be a very effective platform.
All the stuff that Startup Boston does. Holy cow. Every month, every day, there's something. Let's do one more.
Idea, Cherry.
Go ahead.
Very quick idea on being creative around this topic is I've seen founders, non-technical founders, joining coding classes and trying to hang with the people that you are looking to hire. It's a non-traditional way of and shows kind of how resourceful and good you are, but to find those teammates, right? So that's another idea.
Very good. Thank you. Excellent advice. So we're coming to the end. I want to do a quick 1-minute wrap up from each of our speakers. So Kat, let's start with you. What's your little kind of 1-minute big advice for all our listeners?
Sorry, I was on mute. I think taking advantage of the ecosystem. Go out there and network, connect with local mentors, industry experts. keep following Startup Boston because, you know, they do a great job of like bringing everyone together. And, you know, one thing is like, it can be really tough, right? As like an entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial journey is a lonely one. So like, make sure that you're leveraging your community, you know, show up to those networking events, ask for help. And happy to connect with people afterwards. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you can find us all on LinkedIn. Parker, we'll go to you.
This will come across as simple and lame, but I would say just turn up the relentless dial, and, you know, don't be afraid to keep iterating and taking twists and turns and move really fast. And I think you're going to find yourself in a good spot. I would say don't get stuck in a rut for too long. You know, be ready to make a change quickly, and the faster you move, I think you'll ultimately land in an interesting place that it may not be where you thought you'd start, but it'll likely be a good one.
Pivoting, the most important tool in an entrepreneur's belt. Absolutely. Daniel.
Yeah, I think this is a tough and difficult journey being an entrepreneur, but I think is also quite rewarding. And understanding that there are going to be highs and lows, and when you're at the highs, you know, also moderate it, and when you're at the lows, don't stay there too long. To Parker's point, just keep pushing forward, and that's something that I focus on, is that one step at a time, and continuous progress.
Thank you, Danny. Ignacio.
I'll build up upon what has been said, and I think it's a roller coaster. And you guys have to take care of yourself. Make sure that you are checked on your mental health. Have healthy habits. I mean, I cannot emphasize this enough in terms of how important it is for you to be in a good state of mind. And if you need help and advice, don't hesitate to reach out. People is going to help you, and we are here to do that, to help back. So I'll say that.
Absolutely. This is a journey, and sometimes a very long one. That's okay. Be ready for it. Thank you, speakers. Brilliant answers. Steph, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Sherry, for running such an incredible conversation, and to all of our awesome panelists. We really appreciate your time, your expertise, and all of the knowledge you shared. For everyone that has emailed me and has also messaged in chat, this is all recorded. We will be sharing that recording with you on Friday, so rest assured you'll be able to rewatch it, and we'll also be recapping all of the resources that were mentioned here as well, and that will come out in probably next week or two. Not on Friday, but you'll get the recording then. Also, in the meantime, as you may recall from the beginning of the event, Startup Boston and the City of Boston are partnering up for an event series. So we're doing our next one, the first Wednesday of the month, February 7th at 9 a.m. This next one will also be virtual as well, and it's all going to be about how to create a great 60-second elevator pitch. And in addition to hearing from two expert speakers, we're actually going to be handing the mic over to a few of you, brave souls that want to go and, give your pitch publicly to other folks and get your own feedback that's relevant to you and also all of your fellow attendees. So to learn more about that, if you actually want to travel over to the Docs tab on the right, click register for our next event to do that. And you can also access our Startup event calendar, which includes a lot of the events that were mentioned by those fabulous organizations that our panelists mentioned here. There are so many great things doing awesome work. So definitely check out what events we're doing. We have our team go through and manually aggregate all of those event calendars into one place. So it'll give you one snapshot of what is happening this week and month. And also, last but not least, a huge thank you to the City of Boston. I'm actually going to turn the mic over to Shanice from the City of Boston to close us out. So Shanice, take it from here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy we had the chance to kick off our event series with everyone that's attended and everyone that has spoke today. This is a really good chance for the City of Boston to learn more about what our founders need and about the startup community. So that being said, thank you again to our speakers. Thank you, Shari, Daniel, Ignacio, Kat, and Parker. And thank you to Stephanie at Startup Boston. I'm personally really excited about the chance of working with you for the next 6 months. And with that being said, I hope you all join us February 7th.
I look forward to seeing everyone there. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thanks for kicking it off with us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye.
Thank you.